Hello guys, today I'll be showing you how to make a jump scare in UE5. Um, it's just going to be a pretty simple jump scare, but this will just help you get started, and you can make it work for your project. But essentially, I'll show you how it worked in my project, like what it looked like, and then, I'll show you what we'll be making today. So, I'll play a clip of what it looks like in my game here. Okay, so as you could see from that clip, that's sort of what it looked like in my game. So of course you can make it look good and it looks better when stuff is dark and such. We'll just be like using this environment. But yeah, and you can really easily customize it with your own sounds and animations and like putting UIs over top and all that. But so let's get started. So what I'll quickly show you what we'll be making as well. So basically what we'll just be doing is when you collide with the monster, it's just gonna play like. So that's what we'll be doing just today. Obviously it's a little bit better in my project, but that's just a matter of customizing the parameters and doing some fine tuning and such. But so to make this, what we're gonna need is you're gonna need a model, a character model for what of like the monster that you want to use, and then which I'm sure you have, and then you're gonna want some sounds too. These are totally up to you, but so for me, I have like two stabbing sounds for when the monster does a stab animation, and then I have two for like one for the jump scare and another for a ringing sound for ringing in the ears. But and then also you want a custom animation for what your monster will be doing when he attacks. So in my situation, that's stabbing, and yours it might be roaring or whatnot. These are going to be totally independent of what project you're doing and such. But so these are what I have, and then so what we can get started. So we're going to want to make a character if you don't already have one, which would be your monster. And so this is just going to be our monster. So we are going to add a skeletal mesh. Actually, it already comes with one. And so for me, this is going to be this guy right here. And then I'm going to just very quickly set it up so that it works properly and isn't floating. That should be good. And so what we're going to want to do too, just we may as well get it started, is we're going to want to make an animation blueprint for the monster. You want to make sure your skeleton is the skeleton that your monster is using. So for me, it's going to be the UE4 one. But you want to make sure that this is right for you. And then, why did it, okay. So I'm just going to call this AB underscore monster. And then here, we're just going to want to, for now, we're just going to add a new state. And this is just going to be the idle animation for now. Okay, so now we have that set up. We'll have to come back into this later. But so for our monster, we are going to want to use our new animation blueprint. So I'm also going to add a apron on this character, just so that he's not totally naked. Okay, so that is the monster. So what I'm going to do is just drag that in. And of course that's not going to do anything. The monster will just be... Quickly adjust that one more. Okay, but so the next thing we're going to want to do is also there's nothing, this is just the standard third person template. I just made it so that the character moves in first person. But so what we're going to want to do is make an event for when the character collides with the monster. That's the first thing to do. So because we want to play the, at least in my situation, we want to play the jump scare when he collides with the monster. This can be, of course, changed very easily and whatnot, but I would assume that's a lot of the time the standard implementation that people want. So what we're going to want to do is go to the collision cylinder, and then we are going to want to make sure we have generate overlap events, or simulation generates hit events as well. So we want to check that. And everything else here can stay the same. And then we want to, I believe, on component hits. Yeah. So we want to do this. You can also use begin overlap and end overlap depending on how you set up your player collision and whatnot. But the on component hit will sort of generate whenever it hits, even if it's not overlapping. But so for this one's more reliable, but it gets executed all the time. But so what we're going to want to do is we're just going to want to cast this to our third person character. A quick way just to make sure that it did hit a character. And on success, we're just going to want to play it once, and then in our situation we can yeah, it's also possible, probably more ideal, to do this in the make a separate function in the player class as well, just especially if you're doing multiplayer. That's what I did, but we'll just do it this way for now. So what we're going to want to do is get the player controller. And so again, this is all just single player. None of this will be like replicated properly, really. But it's pretty easy to follow this sort of framework if you want to replicate it. You just sort of do the collision logic in the player blueprint. But so what we're going to want to do here is I believe set view target with blend. So what this is going to do is we're going to set the player controller camera to the camera like where we want the jump scare to be. So what we actually have to do as well is make a camera. And then you're going to want to set the socket to the head, and then fix the rotation of the camera. And so again, what this is the where the jump scare will be playing. What's going on here? Oh, I see. Okay, we also in our animation blueprint, just because it's sort of annoying me, we'll want to make sure that this is looping. So that looks right. And then okay. So then we are going to go back to the event graph, and then we are going to you don't have to, you can just grab a reference to self here. Okay, so now when this collides, it should set the camera, the player camera to the monster. So you can see, so that's all that does. And the system's not overly complex or anything. It's just a lot of the time, some devs I've talked to that are trying to get started like don't know where to start in doing a jump scare. So once you have the intuition of just sort of how to approach the system, then it's really easy to understand and it gives pretty good results. And of course, there's a lot of fine tuning you'll want to do for your project. So you want to make sure that it's like looks good and what wide direction it's in and such. But just quickly, that should be good. And then, so now we have that set up. So the next thing we want to do is, let me just check and make sure that this, okay. And the good thing too about this system is that it's, of course, it's not like a 2D image or anything, but it's nice because if the character's getting stabbed or something or jump scared, you can like see the stuff in the background. So it works pretty good in like a multiplayer setting too, because then you're getting jump scared or stabbed and you can see like your friends running away from behind and such. But so I really like this system. You could also sort of do the same system and just render the monster in like a separate area or something with black in the background. That also works, because the one problem is sometimes there may be some clipping even if you do use a boom arm. It's possible if you get jump scared in like a really tight space or something, but if you set up a boom arm with this, then it mitigates a lot of it for sure. So it's sort of a trade-off. But so the next thing we're going to want to do is set up a animation montage for playing the like stab animation, but we only want to play it on the upper half of the body. That way, if he's still walking or anything, it doesn't look too odd. And this might be different in your situation. You might be able to totally avoid this, but that's what I found works best for me and for a lot of people. So what we're gonna do now is create an animation montage. Actually, I think that was for the wrong skeleton. I didn't see. So again, you want to make sure you always select the proper skeleton. Okay. So in our montage, we are going to want to grab the idle animation. And we're also going to want to go to the anim slot manager. If you don't see that, you can just go to window and then open it up, but it should just be here. But so then we are going to want to add a slot. And you're going to want to make a new slot. So I already did it. Just call it upper body. So click add slot and then type in upper body and then enter that and you'll get a new slot. But so then change this slot to the upper body. And then drag in, you're also going to want to drag in your stab animation. Or your attack animation. In my case, this is a stab animation. So you'll see why it works too is because my idle animation is just the third person default idle animation, but my stab animation is different. So you'll see there's like almost clipping here where the legs look different. So that looks weird if you just instantly play the animation. So that's why we're doing this, because it sort of blends just the upper body and it looks like pretty natural. But if you just like instantly swap between these two, it would not look so natural. So yeah, so what we're going to want to do now is we're going to want to make a new montage section, and I'm just, in my situation, I'm going to call this stab. And I'm going to want to drag it at the beginning of the stab animation. And then for here, so this is sort of how the looping works in the montage. So stab is going to go to default. So what that means is after the stab is done playing, it will just go back to the default, which is our idle animation. And then our idle animation is going to go loop back to the default, so it's just going to continue playing that idle animation, if that makes sense. So that's done. Another thing we're going to want to do while we're here is we're going to want to add a notify system. So you could time it with delays and playing sounds or whatever, but it's a lot easier to do it here, because what we do is we play like a stab sound when the monster stabs the player. So for example, right at this frame, I'm going to want to play a sound. And then also at this one, I'm going to want to play a sound. So I'm going to drag my cursor here until I get to a point where like I want to play a sound. So let's say right here. And then I'm going to make a notify track, because I don't have one. Or I do have one, it wasn't there. So I'm going to want to go to the first notify track. And then I'm going to right click here, add notify. And then I already made this just for the demo, but so you're going to want to click new notify and then call it like stab or stab notify, whatever you want to name it. I just named mine stab. So I'm going to click that there. And then I'm going to want to go to the next part where I would play the sound. So right here, let's say. And then I'm just going to paste that. And you would do this however many times you would be playing the sound. So also right here, I guess. So not this one, actually. Okay, so now it's going to play a sound right here. And then also right there. Okay, that's good. So then now I'm going to want to go back to my animation blueprint. And what I need to do here is make sure it actually uses the upper body to play the animation. So I'm just going to go back to the like main graph, And then what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to cache this. And I'll just name this cache pose. And then I'm going to want to use a layered blend per bone. And I'm going to get that cache posed. And I'm going to put this just as the base pose. And then I'm also going to grab this again. But this time I'm going to grab the slot. So I'm going to grab the default slot. And then I'm actually going to select this to the upper body. And I'm just going to plug that into blend poses number 0. And from here, what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to click on the layered blend per bone. I'm going to add a branch filter, open the index, and then the bone name. This is just going to be wherever your upper body starts from. So if you're following the UE4 skeleton, it's just spine 01. And a blend depth of 1 you're going to want to have. And then also mesh space rotation blend, you want to make sure that's checked. Otherwise your rotations will look they will look odd, so you want to make sure that's checked. And we should be good there. So actually just plug it into the output pose. Okay, there. So now that's done. So now all that's left is we just have to play the actual sounds when the notification sort of happens. So again, you'll want to import your own sounds and do all that. This is just sort of a baseline to follow. But so in our monster, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to play 2 sound 2Ds. I'm going to play my Jumpscare sound. And I'm just going to change the pitch a little bit just for my sounds. It's sort of, I'm also going to make sure it's not too loud, hopefully. Okay, and these are just for like as soon as the character gets jump scared. This is just playing the sound. But what we'll also want to do is go back into the animation blueprint and we'll go to the actual logic graph. And here, this is where we're going to call the this is where the notifications actually get called. So you'll see here, if I search out notify, the actual event gets called in the animation blueprint. So what I'm going to want to do also is I just want a current reference to the character all the time. So I'm just going to make a character and just call it pawn. And this is just going to be a blueprint for the actual character. So in my case, just the object reference of the monster. And then on the event where we initialize the actual animation, then I'm just going to want to grab this node right here, set it, cast this to BP underscore monster. Okay, so now we always have a reference to the actual character, and I don't have to cast it every time. So on stab, let me just, so in your monster blueprint, you're going to want to make an event for when the actual stab sound should get played. So I'll just call this so just stab notify, and then now I can go back into the animation blueprint, and all we have to do in the animation blueprint that's left is just call that function. Okay. And so here, all I'm going to want to do is just spawn sound 2D, or no, sorry. I like these sounds being 3D in case there is other players or whatnot, and they also just sound better because these ones are sort of 3D sounds, like getting hit and all that. So spawn sound at location, and then the location will just be. And then another important thing to do too is a lot of the time it's really easy and it makes it sound a lot better if you just randomize your pitches a little bit. So in my situation I'm going to do 0.7 to 1. And this is so easy to do and it makes quite a difference. And then I'm also just going to want to do the exact same thing. And make sure you grab another node, otherwise I think it would return the same value. So they'd both be using the same pitch, I think. I could be wrong there though, but okay. So here in my situation I'm gonna play stab 1 and then stab 2. And then for attenuation, this is just the default attenuation when you make a new attenuation class. What attenuation is, if you don't know, is just how far the sound can be heard and such. So for any non-2D sounds, you need to have attenuation. So that should be good, and I believe we should be done. So let's go ahead and check this out. Okay, that did not work. Let's see what happened. Oh, okay, I'm silly. So obviously we have to play the montage as well. So when we do all this, we also have to grab the skeletal mesh of our character, and then we want to call the play montage node. And the montage is going to be our am_monster we made. The starting position is going to be where we want to start. So in our situation, it's named stab. So if you play default, this would be do that. And this is a super useful node. It's there's another node. A lot of people I see sometimes try and do this system by just using play animation node. But this node's really limited and really hard to work with compared to the play montage node. But anyway, so we're going to want to do this. And then we'll do stab. And that should be good. And from here on, you would, it's totally like up to your implementation of how your game works. You might, in my situation, the player went down and didn't die instantly. But so then you have to decide what you want to do. Does the player instantly die after the jump scare, etc. But so that should be good. So we'll do it one more time. So if you come over here and then Alright, so that's how you make a jump scare. I hope this helps some of you guys. If you have any questions, you can just leave them down in the comments. Thank you.